ग्रंथ नारायण गोसाई महाराज श्री गुरुदेव की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतशतस्मत् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतशतस्मत् श्रील भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतशतस्मत् श्रील भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद शतशतस्मत् श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत श्री गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट श्री सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जय। श्री रूप गौरिया गुरु वर्ग की जय। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल पददास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंद आदि श्री गोपाल शारद वृंद की जय। नाम अचय श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदात गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्यामा कुंड की जय। श्री मुनि देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योग माया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने श्रीमद्भक्तिवेदान्त नारायणति नामिने। नमो ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतिशे नमः। गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय राधिकाय तदालये कृष्णाय कृष्णभक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। यं प्रव्रजन्तम् अनुपेतमपेतकृत्यं द्वैपायनो विरहकातर आजुहाव पुत्रेति तन्मयतया तरवोऽभिनेदुस्तं सर्वभूतहृदयं मुनिमानतोऽस्मि। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तन हृदन्तस्तो ह्यभद्राणि विधुनोति सुहृत्सतम्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भागवतोत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। तवैवास्मि न जीवामि त्वया विना इति विज्ञाय राधे त्वां नायमां चरणान्तिकम्। भक्त्या विहीन अपराधलक्षय क्षिप्ताष्टकामादितरङ्कमध्ये कृपामयि त्वं शरणं प्रपन्ना वृन्दे नमस्ते चरणारविन्दम्। भज श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Dandavat pranams, Hari Bol, Raseshwari Mataji, Rup Manjari Didi, Indira Mataji, Madhavi Didi, Prajumna Prabhu, and Mantra Murti Mata. Dandavat pranams to all of you. So we'll go over the previous chapter. Chapter 5 was Lord Rishabhadev's teachings to his sons. Then chapter 6, the activities of Lord Rishabhadev. Let's see. Okay. So then, hearing that Rishabhadev did not welcome mystic powers, Parikshit Maharaj inquired, why did Rishabhadev neglect his mystic powers? Because for Atma-ramas, who have attained knowledge by practice of bhakti and who have burned up the seeds of karma, the powers of mystic yoga arise automatically and do not cause distress. So then Shukadeva Goswami describes the nature of the mind. You have spoken correctly, but advanced souls do not put faith in the mind, just as a hunter does not put faith in his captured animals. The restless mind can cheat at any moment. The mind is like an unchaste wife. The mind is the root cause of 6 enemies: lust, anger, pride, greed, lamentation, illusion, and fear. So then, Lord Rishabhadev's disappearance. To teach the yogis how to give up the body, Lord Rishabha assumed the dress and language of an avadut. He acted as if dull and materially bound. Although he was the head of all rulers of the universe, constantly seeing himself as non-different from the Lord, without intervention by the material energy, he concluded his pastimes on the earth. Although Rishabhadev had no material body, due to Yogamaya, he considered his body material and behaved like an ordinary human being. He wandered all over the earth and reached the Karnataka state in South India, wherein he passed through Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, finally reaching a forest near Kutakachal by his own will. He moved naked, with hair disheveled like a madman, and a stone in his mouth. His body was burnt in a forest fire created by the rubbing of bamboos agitated by the force of the wind. Note: While fire burned up the gross bodies of trees and animals in that forest, Rishabhadev burned up their subtle bodies. Thus, they all attained liberation. Arhat will imitate Rishabhadev and create a false religion. Arhat, the king of Konka, Venka, and Kutaka, will hear of the activities of Rishabhadev. Being bewildered by Kali Yuga, he will imitate Lord Rishabha's principles and concoct a deviant system of religion opposed to the Vedic injunctions. Note: the jivas of Kali Yuga, looking in the external world, will get benefit by hearing and chanting the pastime of Rishabhadev, but not by imitating his behavior. The followers of that system, bewildered by the Lord's Maya, will abandon Varnashram Dharma, that is bathing, Achman, worship, and cleanliness. And they'll accept concocted religion, pluck out their hair and flourish. And then they will deride the Vedas, the Brahmins, the Lord, and his devotees. And they'll follow the disciplic succession of the blind, and they will fall down into the darkest regions of existence. Rishabha incarnated to deliver the people in this world, who are overwhelmed by the modes of passion and ignorance. He came to deliver these people from the clutches of Maya by his teachings in chapter 5. Glorification of Rishabhadev's activities. Glorification by the sages. Bharatvarsha is the most pious among all lands on this earth, because its inhabitants are accustomed to glorifying the auspicious activities of the Lord's incarnations, such as Rishabha. Priyavrata's dynasty is pure, and celebrated for in it appeared the original Supreme Person who executed Dharma for destroying the results of karma. Which yogi can compare with Rishabhadev and follow his example, even with his mind? He rejected all yogic perfections which other yogis hanker to attain. Rishabha is the master of all Vedic knowledge, human beings, demigods, cows, and Brahmins. Hearing and describing his activities will vanquish sinful activities, will create complete auspiciousness, will make one attain pure bhakti. Devotees always bathe themselves in the lake of bhakti for relief of the sufferings of samsara. They enjoy supreme bliss and reject even liberation, which comes of its own accord. Just by being servants of the Lord, they have attained everything desirable. The link between verse 14 and 18. What was verse 14? Okay, Priyavrati's dynasty is pure and celebrated, for in it appeared the original Supreme Person. So the Lord appeared in Priyavrata's dynasty as Rishabdev, and Uttanapad's... so in Priyavrata's dynasty he appeared as Rishabdev, in Uttanapad's dynasty he appeared as Prithu and Kapila, in the Raghu dynasty as Ramachandra, and in the Yadu dynasty as Krishna. Because Parikshit Maharaj might be thinking that the Lord did not appear in his dynasty, the Kuru dynasty, Shukadev Goswami encourages him by reminding him about Lord Krishna's intimate dealings with the Pandavas and how bhakti is superior to liberation. So Shukadev Goswami says, rarity of bhakti or Krishna's direct service. My dear king, Mukunda is the maintainer, spiritual master, worshipable deity, friend, and director of both the Yadus and the Pandavas, but he was sometimes your servant. To those who worship the Lord, he gives liberation very easily, but not direct service unto him. Note, the Lord was more affectionate to the Pandavas than the Yadus. Thus he gave the highest prem to them. He does not give inferior liberation to his devotees, to his pure devotees. Obeisances to Rishabdev, who was fully aware of his true identity, self-sufficient, not desiring external gratification, and out of his causeless mercy taught the self's real identity and the goal of life. Dandavat Pranam Gargaraj. Yeah, I don't remember that flourish word either. That was interesting. So the activities of King Bharat. And we're going to read this full chapter today. It's a short chapter. In this chapter, the activities of King Bharat Maharaj, the emperor of the whole world, are described. Bharat Maharaj performs various ritualistic ceremonies, Vedic yagyas, and satisfied the Supreme Lord by his different modes of worship. In due course of time, he left home and resided in Haridwar, and passed his days in devotional activities. Being ordered by his father, Lord Rishabdev, Bharat Maharaj married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishvarupa. After this, he ruled the whole world peacefully. Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanabha, and after the reign of Bharat Maharaj, it became known as Bharatvarsha. That's interesting. The Earth used to be called Ajanabha. Bharat Maharaj begot 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, and he named the sons Sumati, Rashtrabhrita, Sudarshana, Avarana, and Dhumraketu. Bharat Maharaj was very rigid in executing religious principles and following in the footsteps of his father. He therefore ruled the citizens very successfully. Because he performed various yagyas to satisfy the Supreme Lord, he was personally very satisfied. Being of undisturbed mind, he increased his devotional activities unto Lord Vasudev. Bharat Maharaj was competent in understanding the principles of saintly persons like Narad, and he followed in the footsteps of the sages. He also kept Lord Vasudev constantly within his heart. After finishing his kingly duties, he divided his kingdom among his 5 sons. He then left home and went to the place of Pulaha, known as Pulaha Āśrama. There he ate forest vegetables and fruits, and worshipped Lord Vasudev with everything available. Thus he increased his devotion toward Vasudev, and he automatically began to realize further his transcendental blissful life. Due to his highly advanced spiritual position, There is sometimes visible in his body the Ashta Sattvika transformations, such as ecstatic crying and bodily trembling, which are symptoms of love of Godhead. It is understood that Maharaj Bharat worshipped the Supreme Lord with mantras mentioned in the Rig Veda, generally known as Gayatri Mantra, which aim at the Supreme Narayan situated within the sun. Text 1. Shri Shuka Uvacha Bharatastu Mahabhagavato Yada Bhagavatavani Tala Paripalanaya Sanchintitas Tar Anushasana Para Panchajanim Vishwarupa Duhitaram Upayame. Shukadev Goswami continued speaking to Maharaj Parikshit. My dear king, Bharat Maharaj was a topmost devotee. Following the orders of his father, who had already decided to install him on the throne, he began to rule the earth accordingly. When Bharat Maharaj ruled the entire globe, he followed the orders of his father and married Panchajani, the daughter of Vishwarupa. Tasyam uhava atmajan kartsnenanurupan atmana Panchajanayam asa bhutadir iva bhuta shukshmani sumatim rashtrabhritam sudarshanam avaranam dhumraketum iti. Just as the false ego creates the subtle sense objects, Maharaj Bharat created 5 sons in the womb of Panchajani, his wife. These sons were named Sumati, Rashtrabhrita, Sudarshana, Avarana, and Dhumraketu. Ajanabham namaitad varsham bharatam iti yata arabhya vyapadishanti. Formerly, this planet was known as Ajanabha Varsh, but since Maharaj Bharat's reign, it has become known as Bharat Varsha. Purport: This planet was formerly known as Ajanabha because of the reign of King Nabhi. After Bharat Maharaj ruled the planet, it became celebrated as Bharat Varsha. Sa Bahuvin Mahipati Pitri Pita Mahavar Uru Vatsalataya Swe Karmani Vartamana Praja Swadharmam Anuvartamana Paryapalayat. Maharaj Bharat was a very learned and experienced king on this earth. He perfectly ruled the citizens, being himself engaged in his own respective duties. Maharaj Bharat was as affectionate to the citizens as his father and grandfather had been. Keeping them engaged in their occupational duties, he ruled the earth. Purport: It is most important that the chief executive rule the citizens by keeping them fully engaged in their respective occupational duties. Some of the citizens were Brahmins, some were Kshatriyas, and some were Vaishyas and Sudras. It is the duty of the government to see that the citizens act according to these material divisions for their spiritual advancement. No one should remain unemployed or unoccupied in any way. One must work as a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra on the material path. And on the spiritual path, everyone should act as a brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, or sannyasi. Although formerly the government was a monarchy, all the kings were very affectionate toward the citizens, and they strictly kept them engaged in their respective duties. Therefore, society was very smoothly conducted. Ije cha bhagavatam yagya kratu rupam kratubir uchavachai Shraddhaya Hrita Agnihotra Darsha Purnamasa Chaturmasya Pashu Somanam Prakriti Vikriti Bhir Anusavanam Chaturhotra Vidhina. With great faith, King Bharata performed various kinds of sacrifice. He performed the sacrifices known as Agnihotra, Darsha, Purnamasa, Chaturmasya, Yagya, wherein a horse is sacrificed, and Soma Yagya, wherein a kind of beverage is offered. Sometimes these sacrifices were performed completely, and sometimes partially. In any case, in all the sacrifices, the regulations of Chaturhotra were strictly followed. In this way, Bharat Maharaj worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead. What's Chaturhotra? 4 yagyas, right? I don't know. Let's see. Purport. Animals like hogs and cows were offered in sacrifice to test the proper execution of the sacrifice. Otherwise, there is no purpose in killing the animal. Actually, the animal was offered in the sacrificial fire to get a rejuvenated life. Generally, an old animal was sacrificed in the fire, and it would come out again in a youthful body. Some of the rituals, however, did not require animal sacrifice. In the present age, animal sacrifices are forbidden, as stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ashramedam gavalambham sanyasam palapaitrikam devarena sutopatim kalo pancha vivarjayet. In this age of Kali, 5 acts are forbidden: the offering of a horse in sacrifice, the offering of a cow in sacrifice, the acceptance of the order of sannyas, the offering of oblations of flesh to the forefathers, and a man's begetting children and his brother's wife. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi 17:164. Such sacrifices are impossible in this age, due to the scarcity of expert Brahmins or Ritvija, who are able to take the responsibility. In the absence of these, the Sankirtan Yajna is recommended. Yagyai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 11.5.32. After all, sacrifices are executed to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagyartha Karma. Such activities should be carried out for the Supreme Lord's pleasure. In this age of Kali, the Supreme Lord in his incarnation of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu should be worshipped with his associates by performance of Sankirtan Yajna, the congregational chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. This process is accepted by intelligent men. Yagai Sankirtana Prayar Yajanti Hi Sumedasaha. The word Sumedasaha refers to intelligent men who possess very good brain substance. Also, just regarding this verse above, I remember, it's a long time ago, I read it in 2006, I think, but the acceptance of the order of sannyas is forbidden in this age of Kali Yuga. My Gurudev writes a chapter about it in his Prabandha Panchakam book. It's talking about karma sannyas, not our Gaudiya Tridandi sannyas. Okay. Sampracharastu nana yageshu virachitanga kriyeshvapurvam yat tat kriya phalam dharmakyam pare brahmani yagya purushe sarva devata linganam mantranam artha niyama kataya shakshat kartari paradevatayam Bhagavati Vasudeva eva bhavayamana atma naipunya mridita kashayo havishvadvayutbir grihyamaneshu sa yajamano yagya bhajo devangstan purusha vayaveshvabhyadhyayat. After performing the preliminaries of various sacrifices, Maharaj Bharat offered the results in the name of religion to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. In other words, he performed all the yajnas for the satisfaction of Lord Vasudeva, Krishna. Maharaj Bharat thought that since the demigods were different parts of Vasudeva's body, he controls those who are explained in the Vedic mantras. By thinking in this way, Maharaj Bharat was freed from all material contamination, such as attachment, lust, and greed. When the priests were about to offer the sacrificial ingredients into the fire, Maharaj Bharat expertly understood how the offering made to different demigods was simply an offering to the different limbs of the Lord. For instance, Indra is the arm of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Surya, the sun, is his eye. Thus, Maharaj Bharat considered that the oblations offered to the different demigods were actually offered unto the different limbs of Lord Vasudeva. Purport. The Supreme Personality of Godhead says that as long as one does not develop the pure devotional service of Shravanam, Kirtanam, hearing and chanting, one must carry out his prescribed duties. Since Bharat Maharaj was a great devotee, one may ask why he performs so many sacrifices that are actually meant for karmis. The fact is that he was simply following the orders of Vasudeva. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Sarva dharmam parityaja mam ekam sharanam braja. Abandon all varieties of religion and just surrender unto me. 1866. Whatever we do, we should constantly remember Vasudeva. People are generally addicted to offering obeisances to various demigods, but Bharat Maharaj simply wanted to please Lord Vasudeva. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Yagatapasam Sarva Loka Maheshwaram, 5:29. A yajna may be carried out to satisfy a particular demigod, but when the yajna is offered to the yajna Purush, Narayan, the demigods are satisfied. The purpose of performing different yajnas is to satisfy the Supreme Lord. One may perform them in the name of different demigods, or directly. If we directly offer oblations to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the demigods are automatically satisfied. If we water the root of a tree, the branches, twigs, fruits, and flowers are automatically satisfied. When one offers sacrifices to different demigods, one should remember that the demigods are simply parts of the body of the Supreme. If we worship the hand of a person, we intend to satisfy the person himself. If we massage a person's legs, we do not really serve the legs, but the person who possesses the legs. All the demigods are different parts of the Lord, and if we offer service to them, we actually serve the Lord himself. Demigod worship is mentioned in Brahma Samhita, but actually the shlokas advocate worship of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda. For instance, worship of the goddess Durga is mentioned in this way in the Brahma Samhita, verse 44. Shristi Stiti Pralaya Sadhana Shakti Reka Chayeva Yasya Bhavanani Vibharti Durga Ichanurupamapi Yasya Cheshtate Sa Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. Following the orders of Shri Krishna, the goddess Durga creates, maintains, and annihilates. Shri Krishna also confirms this statement in Bhagavad Gita. Mayad Dakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam. This material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and non-moving beings. Bhagavad Gita 9:10. We should worship the demigods in that spirit. Because the goddess Durga satisfies Krishna, we should therefore offer respects to goddess Durga. But because Lord Shiva is nothing but Krishna's functional body, we should therefore offer respects to Lord Shiva. Similarly, we should offer respects to Brahma, Agni, and Surya. There are many offerings to different demigods, and one should always remember that these offerings are usually meant to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bharat Maharaj did not aspire to receive some benediction from demigods. His aim was to please the Supreme Lord. In the Mahabharata, among the 1,000 names of Vishnu, it is said Yagya Bhog Yagya Krit Yagya. The enjoyer of Yagya, the performer of Yagya, and Yagya itself are the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the performer of everything, but out of ignorance, the living entity thinks that he is the actor. As long as we think that we are the actors, we bring about karma bandha, bondage to activity. If we act for yajna for Krishna, there is no karma bandha. Yagyarthat karmanonyatra loko yam karma bandhana. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, Work binds one to this material world. Bhagavad Gita 3:9. Following the instructions of Bharata Maharaj, we should act not for personal satisfaction, but for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In Bhagavad Gita 7:28, it is also stated, Ashraddhaya hutam dattam tapastaptam kritam chayat asad ituchate parta na cha tat prita no iha. Sacrifices, austerities, and charities performed without faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are non-permanent. Regardless of whatever rituals are performed, they are called asat, non-permanent. They are therefore useless both in this life and the next. Kings like Maharaj Ambarish and many other Rajarshis, who were pure devotees of the Lord, simply passed their time in the service of the Supreme Lord. When a pure devotee executes some service through the agency of another person, he should not be criticized, for his activities are meant for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. A devotee may have a priest perform some karma kanda, and the priest may not be a pure Vaishnav, but because the devotee wants to please the Supreme Lord, he should not be criticized. The word apurva is very significant. The resultant actions of karma are called apurva. When we act piously or impiously, immediate results do not ensue. We therefore wait for the results, which are called apurva. The results are manifest in the future. Even the smartas accept this apurva. Pure devotees simply act for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the results of their activities are spiritual, are permanent. They are not like those of the karmis, which are non-permanent. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4.23. Gata sangasya muktasya jnanavastita chetasa yadgaya charata karma samagram praviliyate. The work of a man who is unattached to the modes of material nature and who is fully situated in transcendental knowledge merges entirely into transcendence. That work merges entirely into transcendence. A devotee is always free from material contamination. He is fully situated in knowledge, and therefore his sacrifices are intended for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Evam karma vishuddha sattvasyantar hridayakasha sharire brahmani bhagavati vasudeve mahapurusha rupo palakshane Srivatsa Kaustuba Vana Maladri Tara Gadadibir Upalakshite Nija Purusha Hrilikitenatmani Purusha Rupena Virochamana Uchaistram Bhaktir Anudinam Edamana Rayajayata. In this way, being purified by ritualistic sacrifices, the heart of Maharaj Bharat was completely uncontaminated. His devotional service unto Vasudeva, Lord Krishna, increased day after day. Lord Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the original personality of Godhead, manifest as the Supersoul, Paramatma, as well as the impersonal Brahman. Yogis meditate upon the localized Paramatma situated in the heart. Jnanis worship the impersonal Brahman as the supreme absolute truth, and devotees worship Vasudeva, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose transcendental body is described in the Shastras. His body is decorated with the Srivatsa, the Kaustuba jewel, and a flower garland, and his hands hold a conch shell, disc, club, and lotus flower. Devotees like Narad always think of him within their hearts. Purport. Lord Vasudeva, or Shri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is manifest within the hearts of yogis in his Paramatma feature, and he is worshipped as impersonal Brahman by the Jnanis. The Paramatma feature is described in the Shastras as having 4 hands holding disc, conch shell, lotus flower, and club, as confirmed in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 2.2.8. Kechit swadehantara hridaya pakashe pradeshamatram purusham vasantam chatur bhujam kanjaratanga shanka gadadaram dharanaya smaranti. Paramatma is situated in the hearts of all living beings. He has 4 hands which hold 4 symbolic weapons. All devotees who think of the Paramatma within their heart worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the temple deity. They also understand the impersonal features of the Lord and his bodily race, the Brahman effulgence. Evam varshayuta sahasra paryantavasita karma nirvanavasaro dhi bhujamanam swatanayebhyo riktham pitri paitamaham yatha dayam vibhajya swayam sakala sampan niketat swaniketat Pulaha Āśramam pravraja. Destiny fixed the time for Maharaj Bharat's enjoyment of material opulence at 1,000 times 10,000 years. When that period was finished, he retired from family life and divided the wealth he had received from his forefathers among his sons. He left his paternal home, the reservoir of all opulence, and started for Pulaha Āśrama, which is situated in Haridwar. The Shalagram Shilas are obtainable there. Shalagram Shilas are obtainable there. That is what is it, Gomati River? It's interesting. Anyways. Purport. According to the law of Daya Bhak, when one inherits an estate, he must hand it over to the next generation. Bharat Maharaj did this properly. First he enjoyed his paternal property for 1,000 times 10,000 years. Why do they say 1,000 times 10,000 years? Anyways. At the time of his retirement, he divided his property among his sons and left for Pulaha Āśrama. Yatra vava means certainly, because I've seen it a few times now. Yatra vava Bhagavan Harir adyapi tatratyanam nija jananam vatsalyena sanidhapyata icha rupena. At Pulaha Āśrama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, out of his transcendental affection for his devotee, becomes visible to his devotee, satisfying his devotee's desires. Purport. The Lord always exists in different transcendental forms, as stated in Brahma Samhita 539. Ramadimurti Shukala Niyamena Tishtan Nanavataramakarar Bhuvaneshu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumanyo Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. The Lord is situated as himself, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is accompanied by his expansions like Lord Ram, Baladev, Sankarshan, Narayan, Mahavishnu, and so forth. The devotees worship all these forms according to their liking, and the Lord, out of his affection, presents himself as Archa Vigraha. He sometimes presents himself personally before the devotee out of reciprocation or affection. The devotee is always surrendered to the loving service of the Lord, and the Lord is visible to the devotee according to the devotee's desires. He may be present in the form of Lord Ram, Lord Krishna, Lord Nrsingadev, and so on. Such is the exchange of love between the Lord and his devotees. Yatrashrama padanyubhayato nabhir dirshach chakraish chakranadi nama sarit pravara sarvata pavitri karoti. In Pulaha Āśrama is the Gandaki river. Oh, whoops, I said Gomati. I meant to say Gandaki. Is the Gandaki river, which is the best of all rivers. The Shaligram Shila, the marble pebbles, purify all those places. On each and every marble pebble, up and down circles like navels are visible. Shaligram Shila refers to pebbles that appear like stones with a circle, marked up and down. These are available in the river known as Gandaki Nadi. Wherever the waters of this river flow, the place becomes immediately sanctified. I didn't realize the Gandaki River went through Haridwar. Tasmin vava kila sa ekala Pulaha Āśramo pavane vivida kusuma kisalaya tulasi kama bhubhi kandamula phalo paharaischa samihamano bhagavata aradhanam vivikta uparata vishayabhilasha upavritto pashama param nirvrittim avapa. In the gardens of Pulaha Āśrama, Maharaj Bharata lived alone and collected a variety of flowers, twigs, and tulasi leaves. He also collected the water of the Gandaki river, as well as various roots, fruits, and bulbs. With these he offered food to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, and, worshipping him, he remained satisfied. In this way his heart was completely uncontaminated, and he did not have the least desire for material enjoyment. All material desires vanished. In this steady position, he felt full satisfaction and was situated in devotional service. Purport. Everyone is searching after peace of mind. This is obtainable only when one is completely freed from the desire for material sense gratification and is engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhakta prayachati 9:26. Worship of the Lord is not at all expensive. One can offer the Lord a leaf, a flower, a little fruit, and some water. The Supreme Lord accepts these offerings when they are offered with love and devotion. In this way, one can become freed from material desires. As long as one maintains material desires, he cannot be happy. As soon as one engages in the devotional service of the Lord, his mind is purified of all desires. Then one becomes fully satisfied. Savai pungsam paro dharmo yato bhakti rathok saje ahoituki apratihata yayatma suprasiddhati vasudeve bhagavati bhakti yoga prayojita janayat dashuvairagyam jnanam cha yad ahaitukam. The supreme occupation, the supreme dharma for all humanity is that by which men can attain loving service unto the Supreme Transcendent Lord. Sorry, I don't know why I added supreme there. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted in order to completely satisfy the self. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead Shri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1-2 verses 6 and 7. These are the instructions given in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the supreme Vedic literature. One may not be able to go to Pulaha Āśrama, but wherever one is, one can happily render devotional service to the Lord by adopting the processes mentioned above. Tayetam avirata purusha purucharyaya Bhagavati pravardhamana nuraga bharadruta hridaya shaitilya praharsha veganatmanyudpidamana roma pulaka kulaka utkantya pravrita pranaya bhashpa nirudhavaloka nayana evam nija ramanaruna charanaravindanudhyana parichita bhakti yogena paripluta paramahlada gambhira hridaya hradavagadha dishanas tam api kriyamanam bhagavat saparyam na sasmara. The most exalted devotee, Maharaj Bharata, in this way engaged constantly in the devotional service of the Lord. Naturally, his love for Vasudeva Krishna increased more and more and melted his heart. Consequently, he gradually lost all attachment for regulative duties. The hairs of his body stood on end, and all the ecstatic bodily symptoms were manifest. Tears flowed from his eyes, so much so that he could not see anything. Thus he constantly meditated on the reddish lotus feet of the Lord. At that time his heart, which was like a lake, was filled with the water of ecstatic love. When his mind was immersed in that lake, he even forgot the regulative service of the Lord. When one is actually advanced in ecstatic love for Krishna, 8 transcendental blissful symptoms are manifest in the body. Those are the symptoms of perfection arising from loving service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since Maharaj Bharata was constantly engaged in devotional service, all the symptoms of ecstatic love were manifest in his body. I think there's only 2 more verses left, right? Oh yeah, we're almost done. Itam drita bhagavar vrata aniyajina vasasanusavanaabhishekartra kapisha kutila jata kalapena cha virochamana suryarcha bhagavatam hiranmayam purusham ujihane suryamandale bhyupatishtam etar uhovacha. Maharaj Bharata appeared very beautiful. He had a wealth of curly hair on his head, which was wet from bathing 3 times daily. He dressed in a deerskin. He worshipped Lord Narayan, whose body was composed of golden effulgence and who resided within the sun. Maharaj Bharata worshipped Lord Narayan. He worshipped Lord Narayan by chanting the hymns given in the Rig Veda, and he recited the following verse as the sun rose. Purport. The predominating deity within the sun is Hiranmaya, Lord Narayan. He is worshipped by the Gayatri mantra. Rup Manjari, you might want to close your ears, as mentioned before. Om Bhur Bhuvasva Tat Savitor Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. He is also worshipped by other hymns mentioned in the Rig Veda. For instance, Dheya Sada Savitri Mandala Madhyavarti. Within the sun, Lord Narayan is situated, and he has a golden hue. Paro Raja Savitur Jata Vedo Devasya Bhargo Manasedam Jajana Suritasada Punar Avishya Chaste Hangsam Gridhyanam Nrisad Ringiram Ima. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is situated in pure goodness. He illuminates the entire universe and bestows all benedictions upon his devotees. The Lord has created this universe from his own spiritual potency. According to his desire, the Lord entered this universe as a supersoul, and by virtue of his different potencies, he is maintaining all living entities desiring material enjoyment. Let me offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who is the giver of intelligence. Purport. The predominating deity of the sun is another expansion of Narayan, who is illuminating the entire universe. The Lord enters the hearts of all living entities as the supersoul, and he gives them intelligence and fulfills their material desires. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. Sarvasya chaham hridisan nivishta. I am sitting in everyone's heart. Bhagavad Gita chapter 15, verse 15. As a supersoul, the Lord enters the hearts of all living entities. As stated in Brahma Samhita 535, Andantarasta paramanu chayantarastam. He enters the universe and the atom as well. In the Rig Veda, the predominating deity of the sun is worshipped by this mantra: Dheya Sada Savitri Mandala Madhyavarti Narayana Sarasi Jasana Sannivishta. Narayan sits on his lotus flower within the sun. By reciting this mantra, every living entity should take shelter of Narayan, just as the sun rises. Okay, cool. According to modern scientists, the material world rests on the sun's effulgence. Due to sunshine, all planets are rotating and vegetables are growing. We also have information that the moon's shine helps vegetables and herbs grow. Actually, Narayan within the sun is maintaining the entire universe. Narayan should be worshipped by the Gayatri mantra or the Rig mantra. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 5th canto, 7th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Cool, we finished early today. Tomorrow we will read. What's tomorrow? Description of the character of Bharata Maharaj. We're going to read the full chapter again tomorrow also. So Bharata Maharaj brings an infant deer to his ashram, Bharata's attachment to the deer, Bharata's lamentation and separation from the deer. Bharata takes birth as a deer in his next life. That's what we're going to be reading about tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju Ki Jai Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedanta Narayan Gosai Maharaj Shala Gurudev Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedanta Vaman Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitila Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashtatara Shatashmad Shala Bhaktivedanta Sai Maharaj Shala Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shala Bhakti Vigyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shala Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Maha Bhagavat Shala Gopishwaras Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Shala Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shala Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga Ki Jai Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Guna Shad Gosai Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda Ki Jai Namachay Shlahairas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Kshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Sarva Abhishta Padatta Giriraj Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Radha Kunda Shama Kunda Ki Jai Shri Mona Devi Ganga Devi Ki Jai Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi Ki Jai, Shri Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Shri Purnamasi Yogomaya Ki Jai, Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev Ki Jai, Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnav Vrinda Ki Jai, Samagata Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Shri Bharat Maharaj Ki Jai. Vrindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavashacha Krishna Bhakti Padadevi Satyavataya Namo Namaha. Pancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Dandavat pranams. See you all tomorrow. Hari Bol. Dandavat pranams Indira Mataji, Prajumna Prabhu, Karkaraj Rup Manjari, Madhavi Didi, Mitra Brinda Didi. Dandavat pranams all everybody. Raseshwari Mataji. Hari Bol.